Waka, what's up, and welcome back to the channel for yet another FC Finch review. And we're going to get an Eaglemoss one out of the way today, since we really haven't done one since about a week ago or so. And today on the table we have the Enterprise J, or as Eaglemoss will call it, the 1701-J. Those I remember from Star Trek, they literally just called this the Enterprise J. So at this point in time, this was, Enterprise was about 15 years before Discovery was created. So we were not sure if Star Trek was actually using NCC designations on the ship, but the ship does have one just for the hell of it. So hey, we'll go by NCC-1701-J. And yeah, so there we have the very slim, very big, this is a special issue XL model right before us, and it's also very controversial. A lot of people that I've seen on a lot of the forums, I think that collectively a lot of the Star Trek fandom does not like this ship, but that is okay because I do. So we're gonna kind of go over that. I will go over as to why I do like this ship, but first, before any of that, we're gonna take a look at the magazine. So let's get right down to it. And I moved the very flat ship off to the side so we can take a look at the magazine. There we have U.S.S. Enterprise NCC-1701-J. It is the XL special issue, Universe class. It is a Universe class ship, 26th century, operated by the United Federation of Planets at a length of 3,219 meters. And again, if you have ever looked at those charts that show the sizes of the Enterprises together, I think this pretty much dwarfs all of them. Like the Enterprise F is like maybe halfway through a nacelle. So yeah, and there we have a nice shot of the Enterprise J, all nice and 3D rendered. And again, this is one of those ships, and of course we have our stand instructions right over here. We'll get into designing the Enterprise J. Doug Drexler, of course, Doug Drexler, our ship designer for this magnificent vessel. And then, of course, we have a side view. And again, this is just one of those ships that you really gotta look at from a, a 3D view, an isometric view, if I should correct myself, because again, from the side, it just kind of looks like a little hot dog with the cells or whatever. It's kind of weird. And then, of course, it is, it first appears the episode Azadi Prime. It is last appears at Azadi Prime. We never see it again. In fact, we only see as a hallway with a little diagram of the ship, operated in the 26th century and designed by Doug Drexler. And yes, so to kind of confirm, this was from the episode Azadi Prime. One of my top 10 episodes of Enterprise, and believe me, I am not crazy about the Enterprise series. It's my least favorite Star Trek series, but we won't get into that. But Azadi Prime was a very good episode. And then, of course, the episode where we see the Enterprise on the NX-01 Enterprise on the verge of destruction by the Xindi assault fleet, and Captain Archer gets whisked away to the Enterprise J, where he is witnessing the Battle of Procyon 5. Now, fun fact about the Procyon 5 before we get back to the magazine, if you watch very closely, you can see a Prometheus class as well as a Dauntless class battling in that episode. So just kind of little fun facts. Then, of course, we have some nice close-up shots. The impulse engines at the central of the ship. Looks like more impulse engines, and of course the core, and then the deflector dish now at the front of the vessel. No more secondary hull, really. And then, of course, we have some shots of the Universe class, some rough sketches of what it could look like designing the Enterprise J. Doug Drexler wanted the Enterprise J to look as futuristic as possible, even though it was only on screen for a few seconds. And again, the ship, of course, this just being a massive, this is a generation starship. There we see some of the concepts, and you can see a lot of this, some of these concepts actually went on to become the Altair or Voyager concept. So it's interesting to see, this is kind of what the ship would have looked like with a secondary hull. This, of course, being the Altair concept, which I believe was for Voyager at one point as well. And again, there we have yet another concept. Just interesting to see how this ship took place. I mean, at the time, this was what, let's say 500 years or so in the future, something like that. So again, and then of course, Doug Drexler. Now, Doug Drexler always, and in fact, if you watch the Trek Yards with him on it, he always had this fascination with making the nacelles attached by a ring. So again, I believe they would not let him do it because it has to look like the Enterprise still. So again, the Enterprise has to have the dual upswept struts, and there we have, of course, another shot And then, of course, we have a shot of a ton of concept shots. Really, really cool looking. And Doug Drexler was really a advocate of the no saucer route, which is, again, you know, interesting. I actually like some of the 32nd century designs we see in Star Trek Discovery, and I see a few fans getting out of shape about that. And in all honesty, that was a Doug Drexler thing too. Again, the idea of Federation ships not having a saucer has been around long before Discovery. And again, I'm not crazy about Discovery, but there are some things that I do, you know, I do appreciate, and I'm glad that kind of carried over from some of these concepts. And of course, we got some Borg cube concepts here. And then, of course, we have the NX-01 Enterprise, also designed by Doug Drexler. And, of course, we have a few Vulcan-class ships, a lot of them adopting that ring design. And then, of course, some more shots. There's the NX-01 with its secondary hull, which you never got to see a few of these Xindi reptilian ships. And then, of course, a nice upward shot of the Enterprise J. And there we go. And to real quick put the ship in its stand, and I actually ended up gluing this stand because it was falling quite a bit. Luckily, the ship still has not really taken any damage. So, but all you do is just clasp the ship right around the back. And I actually keep this. This ship does kind of fall out of its stand, so I actually keep this on the ground level of my collection display where it can't hurt itself. So there we go. That's for your stand instructions. And let's get a good look at the Enterprise JXL. And I'm going to come off right off the bat. This is really the way to buy this model. If you've owned the standard Enterprise J, it is just really, really small. And this is a big ship. Even the XL doesn't really do the ship justice, but it does better than most. I mean, I think it's best to have the XL of the ship, even if you don't like the ship but you're a completionist. Definitely the XL is the one you want. And this is heavy. In fact, even the standard model was heavy for what it was. This whole saucer is die cast, and so just kind of keep that in mind. U.S.S. Enterprise NCC-1701. Again, I'm not sure if this was actually there in the model. Got some nice feeling plastic in it that kind of goes over what I believe is the bridge dome. I just kind of love how organic this looks. And again, if you watch the Trek Yards, Doug Drexler had proposed the idea that this ship was actually grown, not built, technically, and it's being the generational starship that it is. And believe it or not, I'm going to lay a fun fan theory on you, my personal fan theory. I believe the Enterprise J is still in service in the 31st or 32nd century where Discovery is. I believe the ship is still in service at that point. So just my personal belief. You can disagree with me in the comments, but the ship being the generational ship that is, I believe it's off doing Federation things in strange places. And yeah, so again, we got these nice what appear to be windows, and it's interesting. Doug Drexler would say that the decks actually spiral outwards. They don't go up, you know, upwards and downwards on the ship. They actually spiral outwards on this ship, so you can see a lot of these details. And again, you can kind of feel the extrusions. The black areas are extruded. The light areas are they're kind of indented into the ship. Really, really nice. And I mean, for such a gray, you can see some Aztecing here. You got some darker grays here, and then you have a bit of lighter grays. Just really nice. And again, it's kind of really offset by this yellow. Really, really cool considering we don't see this model at all. They got some nice transparent plastic for what I believe is whatever this is, the warp dome or whatever it is. And again, and look at that, they even went to the trouble to put some detailing on the impulse. I don't even know if it's an impulse engine. It's in the 26th century, but that's really cool. I love that it's purple. Really interesting. And then you got these spiny nacelle pylons. Look really, really good. And you got some nice little vent detailing here. Looks really good. And then you got the nacelles, which are very well done. So you got like this cradle on top of it. You got transparent plastic for the Bassard collector and transparent plastic for the warp coil area. It just looks really, really, this thing is so wild the way it looks. Like the nacelles just kind of being, you know, skinny and spiny like they are. It just looks really, really weird. And then you see, for as spiny as they are, they're actually pretty well in alignment. In fact, they were not bad in alignment on the standard model, but they're even very well now. We can get a look from the side and we can see that, you know, they are pretty well aligned. They look really, really good. And here's a nice side view, and you can just see, like, you know, not really much of a secondary hull. Let's take a look at the bottom. And first off, before we do that, let's get a good look at the reflector. You see some nice orange in there with some purple detailing around. Looks really, really good. Got these little dots all the way around. Not even sure what kind of weapons this would have. And then again, more of that as you got this spine-like structure all along the bottom of the ship. Again, just nice little added details, and of course more window detailing on the bottom. Looks really good. Lots of extrusions, indents, whatnot. And then you got more of that yellow decal. Just really, really good. Again, very weighty for what is a very nice, hefty feel. In fact, this, I believe, is one of the better XL models from Eaglemoss. This really gave some extra definition to something. I mean, they did what they could with the standard model, but this really was meant to be an XL, just how big the ship is. And I think this XL really does this ship justice. So, and there we go. And for a quick comparison, there's not really too much to throw in comparison that. We're going to bring in the Enterprise up. I do have a smaller model of the Enterprise NX-01, but of course it is hidden in storage. And again, you can just kind of see, I mean, it's the standard model versus the standard model. So we're just really going to give a size comparison. So definitely got that hint of an XL, but obviously the Enterprise is like barely up to here on the nacelle. If this were an actual comparison, we can kind of take a look from the front there, so you can just kind of see the evolution of the Enterprise. Again, just really, really interesting, just really unique how this evolved. And of course you got another side view right there, so you can just kind of see these ships, you know, just the whole, just how different Doug had wanted this to be. And again, just really, really cool looking. So there you go. So let's summarize, and there we have it for the Eaglemoss U.S.S. Enterprise NCC-1701-J Special Edition XL model. And yeah, you know, this ship, very controversial amongst the fandoms. There's a lot of people that either don't like the ship, they call it the pizza cutter class, you know, what have you. Me personally, I love this ship. I love the thought process behind it, and at the time, you have to consider that Doug Drexel was designing a ship that was ultimately 200 years after the 1701E. I highly recommend watching the Trek Yards episode on the ship, because it does give you a better perspective of just what he was going for, what kind of ideas he had, and the ideation, the thought process. Even the magazine goes through some of that. It's just really interesting to see how he envisioned a futuristic Enterprise long after the Enterprise we knew of at the time. So again, really cool ship in my opinion for that. And whether you love or hate the ship, if you're looking for a good model of it, the XL is the one you want, hands down. Definitely has the weight, has the size more importantly, and yes, it is just as big as your other Enterprise models, but again, I think it does a bit more justice to the J, because the J is ultimately a large ship. So this really benefited from the XL treatment, and I absolutely love it. I absolutely happy to have it on my shelf. So if you can get this one for a decent price, I do recommend picking this up. And also feel free to check out realmerch.com. I'll put a link in the description down below. That is one of the places to buy Eaglemoss models these days. And if you found this review helpful, consider leaving me a like, because that helps me out. We are growing, so consider subscribing to my channel. I try to do Eaglemoss anywhere from 1 to 3 times a week, depending on the time of year. So feel free to check that out. I'll also put a link in the description down below to my Eaglemoss Hero Collector playlist. You can take a look at all the models I reviewed. There are plenty of them, and have fun with that. And that being said, it is time to end. So I have been FC Finch. Thank you so much for watching. Live long and prosper, and may you boldly go.